Cinema, the only show that's 3 dimensions away from Batman Returns being called Batman 92. I'm your host, 3D Jake, and today we're looking at Batman Returns, released in 1992. Batman Returns was directed by Tim Burton, once again, who directed Batman 89, and was written by Daniel Waters and Sam Hamm. And the movie stars once again Michael Keaton as Batman Bruce Wayne, and Michael Gruff as Alfred, and Pat Higgins as Commissioner Gordon. This time, newcomers include Danny DeVito as the Penguin, Oswald Cobblepot, and Michelle Pfeiffer as Selina Kyle, aka Catwoman, and Christopher Walken as Max Schreck. The movie is essentially a Christmas movie that is a sequel to Batman 89, but is a Christmas movie where basically, like a penguin, when he was a child, his parents threw him out off a bridge, and he basically fell into a sewer full of penguins, and they raised him, and he grew up to basically wanting to find his parents, but then is manipulated by Christopher Walken, who is an evil businessman. And he senses vengeance upon the city. You know, that is literally the plot of this movie. Meanwhile, Catwoman, she basically is killed by Christopher Walken, who is the evil businessman. And then she wants to plot her revenge against him by also going around and plotting her revenge against all men. And Batman, of course, has to stop him. That is literally the plot of the movie. This movie, of course, is a controversial movie, a sequel, because when this movie came out in 92, and a lot of families thought this movie was too dark for a Batman film. Yes, a movie about a guy who dresses up like a bat, whose parents were murdered to him as a child, and whose villain is a clown who literally goes around murdering people, and literally poison people with, like, perfume and cologne. This movie was too dark. I mean, of course it was. I mean, but, like, at the same time, it's a Batman movie. I mean, like, there was obviously talk shows and stuff about this that were like, oh, Batman Returns was too terrifying, and that Terminator 2 was more lighter, to which I'm like, bullshit. But, I mean, hey, not every Batman movie has a nuclear holocaust scene, literally like Terminator 2 does. Like, that was light compared to the scene in Batman Returns when the Penguin dies. I mean, really, come on. Like, I honestly really appreciate this movie. This is my favorite Batman movie, and so I figure in honor of the Penguin coming out, I figured I wanted to talk about this movie because I already covered the Batman, so I really wanted to talk about, and I did not yet to cover Beetlejuice, and so I feel like I want to cover a Tim Burton movie, and I want to cover something Penguin related. Well, you know what? Batman Returns. And I will say, I always watch this movie around Christmas time because it's a Christmas movie in my heart. I really like this movie. It is a fun Christmas movie. I mean, it literally is like Batman 89, I would say, is just a regular non-holiday movie, while Batman Returns is straight up a Christmas movie. Because this movie literally is just so beautifully well done. It feels like a Tim Burton film at Christmas. Like, I would say, like, this was shot around the same time as Nightmare Before Christmas, and you could tell Tim Burton really Burtonified this movie. And I love how beautiful it is. Like, it has beautiful landscapes of the city and everything. And I like how Danny DeVito, like, how the character design. Michelle Pfeiffer as Catwoman, I was not a big fan of her design costume-wise. Because I just feel like it's a sewed-up outfit that's kind of BDSM. But then, after you see the Halle Berry Catwoman, you're like, well, maybe I was too harsh on that, Because, I mean, at the same time, she made this costume herself, so I mean it's not going to be professional. And, like, if you look at Anne Hathaway's costume, you could tell obviously, like, there's no way she designed that costume. Like, that's where it takes you out of realism. And as for Zoe Kravitz as a Catwoman, I mean, really, it feels more a homemade costume, so I could buy that costume. But this is a costume, and if you look at Eartha Kitt's costume, or I think, is it Julia Newmar, or I feel like, I'm sorry if I got that name wrong, as Catwoman from the 66 Adam West show, you could look at those costumes and say, yeah, there's no way they designed those costumes. Like, but this one, I feel like you could believe she designed it. Because, I mean, you see her design and everything, and it is great and everything. And, I mean, you get to see some horrific stuff in this movie. Like, you see literally Batman kill a bunch of villains. Like, literally, he sets one guy on fire, then he punches one guy and blows him up, and then he has, like, a psychopathic smile as he puts the bomb on the guy and knocks him out and lets him blow up. And, I mean, there's a lot of... Batman has a kill count in this movie, And so, yeah, like, some people have probably issue, oh, Batman doesn't kill. I mean, but, like, almost pretty much 99% of the movies, Batman is out there murdering people. So yeah, I would say Batman is a kind of an evil bastard in this movie. He's close to being the Punisher in this movie, because he literally is just like a, he's like, yeah, he's out there like, if you piss Batman off, there's a chance he's going to kill you in this movie, because it's like, I mean, I'm not saying he's like Affleck killing, like, but I'm just saying like he's kind of, I've always said there's a joke in Peacemaker season 1 where he's like, his villains are 6 feet fucking under, because he said Batman is a pussy. And he said, my villains are 6 feet fucking under. He says, literally, he goes, do you know why my villains don't come back and try to terrorize cities? Because they're dead. They're 6 feet under. And he goes, Batman, he puts them in jail, then they break out, and then do it all over again. And then Batman basically inadvertently has the villain kill somebody. And I kind of agree with that. It's like, okay, yeah, he could put the person in prison. Guess what happens? They get out. I mean, obviously, Batman doesn't technically kill the Penguin. The Penguin, I mean, you could say he does, like, well, inadvertently kills the Penguin, but he kind of doesn't. Like, I mean, obviously, you could say, well, he crashed into the building that kind of, collapsed, but, you could justify it that way. But, I mean, I will say, I do think that, I don't agree with that method of, like, Batman killing all the time, but I understand when he has to, he has to. And I will say there are even the stuff in this movie that I really like. I like the love triangle, the love story between Batman and Catwoman. How it's like they're enemies, but at the same time they love each other. And there's even a great shot where they're at the ball, and like they're like everybody's wearing masks except for them two. And I thought that was so brilliant. And then of course how I like how Batman, like how his costume is more updated. Although I kind of miss the symbol. I will say I do like the new design, and that's kind of the design they went with going forward on all Michael Keaton merchandise and everything. I also do like the fact that Michael Keaton in this movie, his Batman is more cooler. I think, unless the first one he was just more broken, while this one he's more of a cooler Bruce Wayne. Like there's a scene I really like where he's talking to Max Schreck at his office, and he throws and he's trying he's like the paper across the room, so he just throws the paper to him. And I feel like that's an improv moment for Michael Keaton, because he's like, what the fuck am I supposed to do? Hand this to him. He's like, I'm just gonna throw it to him. I mean, I thought that was just so great, And I really like, how like how they're trying to give Alfred a back, like tell him I have a big business deal, because and then they're on their way to fight each other, which is so great, And also Danny DeVito is so creepy as the Penguin. He says some perverted shit too. Like there are some lines in the movie where he's just saying like disgusting things. You're just like, I can see why people are upset, because he's literally saying disgusting, perverted things as the Penguin, especially towards women, that you would not, like, the Warner Bros. Would make him cut out. So you cannot say that. He cannot say that about a woman. That is disgusting. Like, he says something referring to a cat, but it's towards Catwoman. And you know what he means by it. And you're just like, that is disgusting. You need to stop that. Or, he says something about a staffer because he's trying to get him to run for mayor. Christopher Walken's trying to get him for mayor. I think that's also something that's kind of problematic in this movie. Which I'm not saying they should cut it out, I'm saying like, I could see people not liking that, I understand that in 92 why people didn't like that. And I do think also there are some messed up deaths in this movie. Like, for instance, there's a scene where the princess falls to her death. I thought that was pretty cool. It wasn't horrify me. Although, if you think about the Penguin's main plot, I can understand is why parents said, okay, and McDonald's said, we're going to cut our toy lines from this movie. Is because the Penguin's main plot is the exact same plot of the Ten Commandments, where basically the Penguin is going to round up all the firstborn sons of Gotham and murder them. And apparently everyone in Gotham has children as firstborn sons, because they're all children. They're going to rip them and throw them in a vat of acid and murder them. I'm like, that is so fucked up. Especially it's like, you're going to, and then like there's even at one point in the movie, one of his goons says, Penguin, don't you think murdering children's a little messed up? And then the Penguin murders him. And I'm like, yeah, he kind of lost it. He's literally a psychopath at this point. Because it's like, even no supervillain has thought about how fucked up that of an idea. It's like, you could say in Man of Steel, General Zod, I'm going to level the city and destroy him. But it's like, he's not thinking about murdering children, even though he's probably, mass genocide is probably worse. But still, I mean, I'm just saying, Penguin's going to wipe out the firstborns. I'm like, that's so fucked up. And then after it doesn't work, he's like, well, I'm just gonna bomb everybody in Gotham with Penguin, since that didn't work. It just, I mean, there's some great stuff, and especially the Penguin's death at the end is so beautiful, where he dies, he's bleeding out black goo, and then he just dies, and then the Penguins have a penguin feeling like dragging his body. Thought that was so beautiful, and I always like the third act where they're in the zoo, the abandoned zoo, and then all of a sudden, like, Catwoman's there, and she's trying to kill Batman, and Christopher Walken's there, and then she gets bit, and then like literally he's like trying to, like, he pulls his mask off, and I always felt like this was the final film, even though this was Michael Keaton's last film, because it felt like a final confrontation where he rips his mask off. I'm like, I'm done being Batman. Just look at me. Let's go away together. And then she's like, I could never be with myself. Like, she just wants to be like, I don't want to be just Selena Kyle. I want to kill him. And then she does. She kills Christopher Walken when she does this, like, how the creepiest thing when she claws Bruce Wayne, and then she takes a taser, a stun gun, and goes, ah, and gives him like a kiss. Like, how about a kiss, Santa Claus? Ah, and then like she shoots herself and kills him at the same time. Oh, that was so beautiful. That was so great. I mean, just this movie is so well done, and I'm like, it just, oh man, especially when she puts her outfit on at the beginning, where she goes back and says, "Honey, I'm not home," and she destroys everything. And I mean, she is just such a perfect Catwoman. And then that third act really solidifies, like, this is why I love this movie. There are some issues. I mean, you could say, like, it just feels like this movie doesn't really have, like, it just goes on one narrative plot. Like, it feels like, okay, you could say, oh, there's two, like, you got a Catwoman, you got Penguin, and then it kind of becomes convoluted whenever Christopher Walken's in the mix. So it's like, you have three different villains in the movie, and so you could pick apart that, or you could pick apart that Bruce Wayne is just kind of a side character in this movie, and every other character, in this movie is like has more of a storyline, like Christopher Walken, Oswald, Catwoman. They all have a bigger storyline than Batman, when he's just more of a third wheel in this movie, and he's just there. I could literally say that, or Alfred is basically useless in this movie. I mean, I could say that too. I mean, but at the same time, I've always had a soft spot for it. Although I do think is this better than Batman Returns from a story standpoint? No. But from like a comic booky Tim Burton film, this is fantastic. If I had to give this movie a fair grade, I would give it a solid B+. Thank you.
Above Gotham looms its greatest hero.